There are two primary ways of communicating with beings of higher consciousness. One is through astral projection, where you leave your physical body and communicate to them in person. As much as I'd love to break into astral travel right now, we have to save that for later.
Why? Did you run out of LSD?
The other method involves having a being come to Earth and communicate through a trained person, and this is called channeling.
Oh, here we go.
Let's talk about animal communication, because this is a form of channeling that you yourself can do. Start by taking your dog into a quiet room. Sit on the floor next to him, or if he's allowed on the couch or bed, have him sit next to you. Pet him in his favorite spot until he's settled in. Then start talking quietly to him in a loving tone. When you've gone over your key phrase 10 times or so, close your eyes and be silent. Stop petting him and begin to form a picture in your mind of what you want him to know. Float the image out of your forehead where your third eye is located and into your dog's head directly between the eyes.
Okay, everyone got that? Float the image out of your forehead. You know, this isn't the stupid part.
If you begin to get a reaction from him, like putting his head in your lap or something else, congratulations, you've just communicated with your dog.
How would you know that the dog understood? I mean, wouldn't it be a little more impressive if the dog actually, fetched the object I was thinking about? Because dogs will put their heads in people's laps even if they don't get telepathic messages. Wouldn't it be a little more impressive if the way the dog said, okay, message received, actually showed me that the message had been received?
I've actually read that horses are really good at communication as well.
Yeah, you do know that the horse whisperer was fiction, right?
A woman said that one time she had a horse specifically ask for a green apple, not a red one. Had to be green. Of course, she immediately got one and gave it to her, and they started communicating more.
Okay, so let's assume that this is based on a true story. Let's assume there really was a woman who got the impression that a horse was asking for a green and not a red apple. But let's assume, just humor me here. Let's assume she was just imagining things. She got a green apple and gave it to the horse. Now, when a domesticated animal is offered food by a human, typically they don't reject it. It's just animals eat. It's that simple. So, if she was just imagining things, then what we have here is a horse being offered an apple and accepting it. And if you're right, and she was actually communicating telepathically with the horse, then she offered the horse a green apple and it accepted it. So how could you tell the difference?
There's a gland in the brain called the pineal gland, which scientists have actually labeled the psychic gland.
It's perfectly possible that there were scientists who thought that the pineal gland had something to do with psychic abilities. That's perfectly possible. But the fact remains that they had no evidence linking it to anything of the kind. How do I know that? Because no evidence of any psychic abilities has ever been put forth. None. No psychic abilities have ever been demonstrated under proper controlled conditions.
For beings of higher consciousness, it's essentially the same thing, only reversed. In this scenario, we are like the animal, and we are communicating with beings who know and understand far more than we do.
Then how come the psychics don't ever demonstrate that these beings have knowledge that the psychics themselves don't?
It's important that when you're listening to or reading channelings, that you use discernment with what you're listening to. If what is being said feels right, then go with that flow.
So if it feels right, believe it? Well, I guess we can wrap this up here. I mean, if that's how you analyze claims, it's no wonder you believe so many stupid things. Is this how fans of spirit science think as well? If it feels right, believe it? Don't you actually care about whether it's true? I do. That's why I don't think, hey, how do I feel about it? Oh, yeah, well, I like it. So, hey, I'm going to believe it. No, I actually ask, what is the evidence? What does reality have to say about it? Reality doesn't give a damn how I feel about it.
For those who are trying to channel entities on your own, I ask that you use caution when proceeding forward, but also have fun. There is a possibility that you encounter a negative entity who may try and trick you or steer you off course.
And if you encounter such an entity, my advice would be to imagine a nice entity instead. I mean, it's your imagination, you're in charge.
If you connect with a being that just fills you up with love and light inside, then feel free to establish a conscious connection and communicate with this being.
And when you do, don't forget to ask for something useful. Not just something that gives you a warm, fuzzy feeling inside, but something that is actually going to demonstrate that you have been in contact with a higher being.
Sirians and Pleiadians especially are known for being very loving and helpful. To learn more about this, I recommend reading the book Bringers of the Dawn, or listening to the audiobook, which is available on YouTube.
According to that book, there is life, advanced life, intelligent life, in the Pleiades. Even if we set aside the whole psychic thing and just focus on the issue of there is life in the Pleiades, come on, people. Think about it. Okay. The Pleiades is an open star cluster in our own galaxy. And there's supposed to be intelligent life there. Come on. Get the wheels turning. How many people are catching on? Not all of you. Well, everyone with a basic understanding of astronomy, sure, but okay. I'm gonna simplify. The Pleiades is an open star cluster. That's a loose formation of stars that were formed together from the same molecular cloud. It's a loose formation inside our galaxy. That means it's surrounded by other stars. And it's been around for so long that there is intelligent life there. Okay. You see the problem? A few more. Okay. Stars in a cluster. Stars around. What's going to happen to the cluster over time? I'll give you one more clue.
Gravity, you f***ing retard! Gravity! Have you ever heard of f***ing gravity? Gravity!
Open star clusters disperse. Okay? The Pleiades is still a star cluster. That means the stars in the Pleiades are very young. In fact, we're talking about a couple of 100 million years at most. There can't be advanced life there, because that takes billions of years to evolve.
A lot of the information in spirit science does actually come from channeling.
Let me translate that. There's no reason to believe any of this. Oh, except it feels right.
A man named Drunvalo Melchizedek was visited by a being named Thoth roughly 30 years ago and worked with him personally for many years. We're going to be learning a lot about Thoth, who was the priest king of Atlantis for a very long time.
No, Thoth was the god of knowledge in Egyptian mythology. He wasn't a real person, he wasn't a priest, he wasn't a king, and he has absolutely nothing to do with Atlantis.
He wrote about all of his experiences in the Emerald Tablets, which are ancient, unbreakable tablets which we discuss in Lesson 12.
Yeah, I do not look forward to that one.
The whole Atlantis story came from him.
No, it came from Plato. He's the one who made it up. It was an allegory, and I'm going to expand on this when we get to Lesson 12.
There's actually a being channeled named Cryon of Magnetic Service. He talks a lot about worldly events and what's going on a global scale. What's interesting is that Cryon has been invited to the United Nations 7 times over the last 13 years. If the UN listens to channeling, maybe it deserves a little more credibility than we realize.
Assuming that's true, why should I care what some UN delegates think about channeling? How are they authorities on that subject? How did they demonstrate their expertise? Who recognizes them as authorities? This is a textbook appeal to authority fallacy. Okay, we're done with this part. But let me just close by saying that no alleged psychic has ever presented any useful information of any kind to any degree of accuracy that is better than a random guess. Ever. It's always a meaningless drivel or something that's supposed to give you this warm, fuzzy feeling like, hey, my dead grandma loves me. Okay, great. I mean, that's not useful information. Psychics are always willing to provide answers to questions, but their answers are never more accurate than an uninformed guess. Until a psychic actually passes a proper test under proper controlled conditions, I feel perfectly justified not just in not believing in psychics, but in holding the positive belief that psychics are, in fact, as Tim Minchin puts it, either lying or in the head. See ya.